All right, welcome to another edition of On the Record. The Eagles, Hotel California, is a fifth studio album by American rockers, The Eagles. Released on December 8th, 1976 by Asylum Records, Hotel California was recorded by Bill Seismic at the Cafeteria and Recording Plant Studios between March and October of 1976. It was the band's first album with guitarist Joe Walsh, who had replaced founding member Bernie Leadon, and the last to feature founding member Randy Meisner. Hotel California is one of the best-selling albums of all time. It's certified, get this, certified platinum 26 times over with a estimate of 32 million records sold. That is unheard of and amazing. It has been ranked as one of the greatest albums of all time, and for damn good reasons. In 2003 and 2012, it was ranked number 37 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Personally, I think it should be up a little bit higher than that. So if you came up in bands and you were around music in the 80s, everyone was aware of how great these albums were engineered and mixed. If you wanted your band or the band you were either recording or mixing live, you wanted to attain that level of Eagles clarity and greatness. But how? That would take years to discover that type of magic, if ever locally. With the Eagles, their records were a master class of spatial sound and of letting the silence count as much as it could. Now, today's co-host, Rob, and I, we have a personal connection to this album, to the Eagles, and especially Criteria Studios. And why would that be? Well, it was the man who taught us in the recording studio in college, the legendary Eddie Michal. Let's give a little moment for Eddie. He was, a really interesting teacher, and he let you experiment and he let you make the mistakes. And Eddie Michal, there was no one better than him, Rob?
That's right. No, excuse me. How you doing, V?
All right, how you doing, man?
Not bad. Glad to be here talking about such a great album.
Absolutely, and we know Eddie Michal went on to win 5 Grammys with the Eagles in the engineering department.
Yep, and a fine individual.
Yeah, and this episode is dedicated to our friend Eddie, who is no longer with us. So let's celebrate this music and go on the record. Yeah, man. How about it?
One of the best albums of all time for me personally. And that was even before I met Ed. So
yeah, and there's Ed during the recording of Hotel California at the console.
Radar.
No stress there. No stress there. So so give us a background on your personal history with this album.
My mom was always into classic rock. I think that goes without saying with the 70s. And I kind of grew up listening to obviously her music, but I do remember Hotel California being part of it. When it came out, you said 76, right?
Yeah.
So I was only 9 years old. But being 9, my mom, felt I was either old enough to stay home and watch my sisters, or I didn't need a babysitter, so she'd let me tag along, or she'd have me tag along with her. But no matter where we went, there was always music playing. And I do remember not just Hotel California, Life in a Fast Lane, all those singles off that. I remember my mom listening to the entire album. I think she either had the 8-track, because back in those days, that's that's what they listened to. So
right. But it's funny you bring that up because there's an 8-track moment later that we'll discuss.
All right. But funny thing is, when I listen to CDs today, I don't look at who engineered the album. I don't look who the management was. So when I went to the Art Institute and somebody said, "Hey, Ed Michal is one of the teachers," I'm like, "Okay, I don't know who that is." Like, what? Yeah, I almost thought I was going to get in a fight. But then it was explained to me that who Ed Michal was, and I'm just like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
And I'd run into him in the hallway because my roommate at the time, Eric, did. He was at school, and he was Ed was a god to Eric, and it just, I kind of knew Ed through Eric at first, and then I don't know if I was under the microscope after that, but Ed knew who I was when the first time I had met him. So it wasn't too long after that. I think it was the second semester of audio,
Yeah.
and then Ed approached me and said, "You're going to be in my audio honors group, aren't you? Aren't you?" I'm like, I guess I don't have any choice. So yeah, I guess when the king beckons you, I guess you kind of
Mm-hmm.
you go with it. But it
Yeah.
was funny because that audio honors group. I did see the track sheets for Hotel California
Yeah.
as well as the long run, and he sat down and explained them to me on
Mm-hmm.
what they did, or actually the class, or what they were used for, and
Yeah.
when they had the echoes, that sort of stuff in every setting for each, in case you leave the studio, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what was that gate set at again? Oh,
Right. Right. Right.
check out the liner sheets, or the track sheets.
Yeah.
But it's it was really cool to sit in, be part of his group. And then, one day I walked in and said, "Hey Rob, I need to go to the mechanics. Can you teach class today?" I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
what are we learning today?" He goes, "Oh, we're just doing, sending signal through." I'm like, okay,
Signal
I can do
flow.
that. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
They're throwing some reverb, throwing some echo, throwing some,
Yeah.
stuff like
I
that.
wasn't. I was not in. I don't think I was in that class.
I was going to ask you about that because I thought at the time you were more into video than
I
audio.
was more into video, but so I was part of the. I was also part of the staff at the school.
Mm, that's
So I
right.
was
Yep.
working with Eddie on other shit,
Yes.
and then like so I saw the tracks in the office. So I'd walk in the office, and Eddie Michal would walk in, and Steve Schwab's there, and Papa Papa would fucking come in,
Yeah.
all grumpy and like smiling. Dude,
Such a
people got him so wrong. He was, dude. I love that guy,
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Papa Baez, man, unbelievable. Great sense of humor, man. If people missed it, that was on them.
He was off the
Like he
wall
was
humor.
like he treated you immediately as a peer. And when you're young and you're coming up
Yeah.
and you're learning stuff, and of course we were part of the percentage of people who were working
Yeah.
professionally and going to
Right.
school at the same time. So
Right.
a lot of people decided not to do that.
Hmm.
We got way more than our money's worth out of it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I still carry that.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, so Hotel California, this was a staple in my house growing up.
Oh yeah.
And and always. I mean, because when we were kids, it wasn't like, "Hey, what song do you want to listen to?" Okay, maybe you'd say that if you got your portable and it's your 45s. Hey, what
I'm just gonna say that.
would be like, album you want to listen to?
Yeah.
You listen to the album.
Hmm.
Like there was some people were concept and and a lot of albums took you on a journey and it was highs and lows. And I think it's, unfortunate that maybe that's not how things are being listened to now, but with the rise of vinyl, maybe.
Yeah.
But I just saw an article right before we signed on here, and it said that 47% of all people who buy vinyl don't have a record player.
I can see that. They want to jump on a bandwagon.
Yeah, those assholes.
Well, the funny thing is, I don't know if you saw, about 6 months ago, I went to the one of the novelty shop stores at the mall, and they actually had a big, large bin of these albums.
Yeah,
And I'm like, just for shits and giggles, I'm going through it. And I saw Rolling Stones Hot Rocks, which is like a double greatest hits album, $25. I dug mine out, and I still had the sticker on it. It was $5 when I got it.
nice.
So that that's just beyond me. But at the same time, I'm like, well, it kind of deterred me from going out because I don't have a record player.
Hmm.
So even though I have all these albums, that why am I going to spend $25? Yes, I do. I am one of those audiophiles that believe that an analog recording is superior than digital.
Right.
And I do hear that.
Yeah.
But I'm not such an audiophile where I'm gonna sit in front of my clipped speakers and my, you know, whatever amplifier and pick out every
Harman
frequency.
Kardon equalizer.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he used a such and such microphone for the hi-hat. Oh, he used such and such microphone for the kick. You can hear it. Oh, he used 09 strings on it. No, I'm not doing that. I Some people are like that, not me. Now, I do love a good album. Hotel
Yeah.
California, I can listen to that all day.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, the space in that thing, because, all the albums at the time were kind of like here.
Yeah.
Got to make sure to show both arms. Weird climate. Um, so, but with Hotel California, man, you were immersed
Yes.
completely, like right from the first, on the 12 string, boom, ding, ding,
Mm-hmm.
in the first second, you're already like, oh, and then you'd sit back.
Mm-hmm.
Then you hear the second guitar come in.
Well, a lot of people don't know is that that there's 12 guitars, 14 guitars on that one song.
Mm-hmm.
And Ed showed us those track sheets for that. Like, wow, guitar one did it, guitar two, yeah, and he counted all these guitars. Like,
Right.
wow, that is so
And
cool.
Criteria Studios, depending on what accent you use. That's where the school went down there. Ed was associated for many, 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 many years with Criteria from the Eagles and before that. And then, so that recording studio was used by a lot of the big guns.
A lot of them. Bee Gees.
Yeah, the Bee Gees, they invented the first drum loop for Staying Alive there
Yeah.
because the drummer got the flu.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we'll just do this thing. So they stretch out the tape and the whole night. And they, recreate. Remember when we recreated the loop in the same studio that the Bee Gees did it?
Mm-hmm.
And it kept the drums at a certain thing because they had to put the drum tracks down that day because that studio was so packed.
Yeah.
And in the recording of Hotel California, they had to stop a few times because Black Sabbath was in the next room and they were playing too fucking loud and it was bleeding through. So they had to like kind of take a moment, and like wait till they're done playing. But Criteria Studios, and they split it in between the record plant because of the producer's fear of earthquakes, of living on a fault line. So that's how they split. That's how they made the deal in order to get the album done, basically. But it was Record Plant Studios in Los Angeles. Yeah. Oh, it was on the last track of the album. The Last Resort had to be re-recorded due to the noise from the next studio.
Noise.
Yeah. Okay, so it says here for the title track, Hotel California, after the arrangement and instrumentation had been refined, several takes were recorded. The best parts were then spliced together in all 33 edits on the 2-inch master to create the vinyl version. No stress on that tape.
Yeah, but people don't understand the editing process on tape too, especially 32 segments editing. So there's this editing block, and you have razors and tape.
Yeah.
And you gotta, kind of play it back forward, play it back forward. Yeah. People don't understand that.
Oh yeah. And then you get the corner that will just learn. You always get the corner of the tape like dog-eared inside, and you had to. Oh, God damn it! Also, "Victim of Love" was recorded in a live studio session, apart from the lead vocal and the harmony on the choruses, which were added later. Don Felder initially sang the lead vocal in many early takes of the song, but the band felt his efforts were not up to snuff, and then Henley took over.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Still created a lot of animosity with that band.
Yeah. Hotel California, masterpiece of a beautiful song, delivered with clarity and, like I said, mastery of spatial mixing. No one blends vocals like the Eagles.
Yeah, it's true.
Nobody. And for such a long, for everyone to know the words to Hotel California by the time you're like 4, and it's a 7-minute song or a 6.5-minute song, But so that was sang by Don.
Yeah.
They were released in 1976. Then we go to New Kid in Town. That was very pop, very floaty.
Yep, sung by
Uh,
Glenn
yeah, floaty keys and organs on this one, sung by
Oregon.
Glenn. Glenn's got a really interesting voice too. And that's
Very.
what I liked a lot about the '70s band. That's what like people go, "How can you like the Eagles and like Kiss at the same time?" I'm like, "Well, dude, there's 4 singers in the band, or there were. You know what I mean? There's 5 singers in the Eagles. Everyone sings.
Yeah.
You have so many bigger options. You know what I mean? Because originally when I found out that Nugent wasn't singing on his songs when I was a kid, I was like,
I did the same thing.
"What?
Stranglehold isn't him?
Get out of town!" Sung by one of the best rock and roll soul singers, by the way. But yeah, so that's so. What's your thoughts on New Kid in Town?
That was sugary,
Yeah.
but again, when you go back to the whole '70s sound, especially listening to the radio with my mom, New Kid in Town actually fit in with the stuff that she was listening to, especially with Linda Ronstadt.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Well, of
yeah,
course,
exactly.
because the
And
Eagles
then
came. For those who don't know, the Eagles came out of Linda Ronstadt's touring band.
exactly, and there's a lot. Even back then, the Carpenters were big, so it's kind of like when you bring a New Kid in Town. It wasn't, oh, this is what they do, jump the shark. But no, it was
Oh, it was of its time for sure.
they were so diverse with everything.
Oh yeah,
So with every song. So
yeah. Like Hotel California, they start off the album. It draws both the guys and the girls in,
yeah,
and then New Kid in Town is the song that makes the girl dance with her. So it became like a prom thing, a weddings,
yeah,
and receptions, and it's a great song.
yeah,
And it was funny when we said we're going to do this album. Uh, having doing album by albums with Pat, and some of the music went through this phase where everyone had like 16, 17 tracks on an album, which is totally the wrong way to go, because a lot of it's just like, oh, meat grinder,
oh yeah.
you know and they want to get paid. I'm sure they didn't want, but still that was but yeah, so this has like what, 9.
I think so, 9. But if you put wasted time and then wasted time reprise, then it's 8.
Well, okay, yeah, okay, we'll talk we'll get to that, but right, yeah, uh yeah, so then that's followed up with, of course the guy's gonna be embarrassed when, oh, he's dancing, oh, public display defend. What are you gonna do? Bring in Joe Walsh. Corrects the situation. Everyone's in a great mood. Who doesn't love Joe Walsh? I love Joe Walsh for
Oh,
the reasons of
absolutely.
the universe. And what an interesting choice that they made at that time,
Yeah.
because they were kind of they could have been, huge country, because they were, you know what I mean? They were kind of in that, but they weren't.
Hmm.
But people perceived that they were because of their acoustics.
Well, Glenn Johns was a country guy,
Yeah.
and that's when Bill Simzik came in and said, country time is over.
Mhm.
So that kind of they steered him with one of these nights, steered him away from the whole country twang.
Yeah. So then Joe Walsh gets in the place. And next thing you know, I love that guy.
I know.
So there's the local Steve Dahl is a huge radio guy here when I was growing up. And so it's the Steve and Gary show, and they did Disco Coalition, all that. They're the ones who blew up part of the ballpark field,
Oh yeah,
the disco record.
yeah.
So when they would go on vacation, Joe Walsh would fill in. And he's been doing radio, he's one of these radio guys at his house,
Hmm.
And dude, he was hilarious. Oh my god, everyone like waited for him, to go on vacation, so
Yeah.
Uncle Joe would come in and do the. But yeah, Life in the Fast Lane, total Eagles staple, written by Glenn,
Hmm.
and how it came about was Joe was in the dressing room one day and he did this warm up. He's like, what is that? It's like, I just do that for my finger exercise. And next thing you know, he's like, oh, and then he went and wrote lyrics to it, and that's how that song was born. But yeah, Joe gave the Eagles some definite rock and roll credibility.
Absolutely.
Not that they were all fine before Joe. I'm not taking away from the guys, but Joe had his own kind of thing going. With Joe Walsh, and then before that, he was with
Barnstormers.
Yeah, what do you call it? And then the James Gang.
Yep.
And and he was growing and growing, and then the Eagles come along. Because the Eagles weren't the Eagles when Joe. This is the album that made them the Eagles. You know what I mean? So, weird choice. He only had to sing a few tunes, play guitar more, rather than being, I think he was probably just like kind of burnt out on being the band leader and kind of wanted to kick back I'm sure he didn't imagine it would last 50 years. You know what I mean?
Right? Yeah.
Because no one had done that at that point, but yeah, it's also a great sing-along song, and this album has such a the music is so diverse on this one album. Like today, you couldn't make this album.
No,
I don't think so. So then we get to Wasted Time. Don Henley love song, of course. And no one can sing a ballad like Don Henley, man.
Nah.
You know what I mean? The girls love it, and that's and guys love it. He's just got that. There's something to his it's like sandpaper,
like a smoky honey.
Yeah, there's something attached to his voice, and then we have the Wasted Time reprise. Which I called it 8-track.
Yeah,
that's when it went clunk clunk.
Exactly.
I remember that. But that's funny. That was, if that's the reason why, I'm assuming it was because there was a lot of reprise songs in that time.
Mm-hmm.
So was it because of the 8-track click over? Because nothing worse than clicking over in the middle of the song and then you lose 12 seconds of it, or
yeah.
Especially if you're singing along, and all of a sudden you're
that's hilarious.
Yeah, and then "Victim of Love," the drums, guitars, the vocal, the bass are all just jiving together. Great songwriting.
Yeah,
in this one. And Don, of course, delivers the goods on the vocals.
Don Henley,
Victim of Love, another wedding song or slow dance or breakup song or whatever. You know what I mean?
Victim of Love.
But this album, it hasn't aged.
No, not at all.
Like you listen to it and you're not like, oh, like in 20 years, people go, oh, auto-tune or. You know what I mean? Like now we'll listen to some of the metal stuff from the 80s. Oh my God, how compressed is that guitar?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever, But I mean, here we are almost 50 years later.
Yeah.
And this album is still
up there.
Yeah, it really is amazing. Then we have Pretty Maids All in a Row.
Now, what song is that?
Joe Walsh tune.
What's that song about, Joe? What are the 20 maids all in a row?
Well, it's Pretty Maids all in a row. I don't know. It could be alcohol.
And there's 19.
Or it could be the 18 lines of cocaine I have laid out in front of me.
I don't know.
Yeah, with the vodka. But yeah, and he's been sober for 40 years now, so
yeah,
or whatever, 30 years, whatever, 40 years. Yeah, Victim of Love, great tune. Pretty Maids All in a Row. It's slower than usual Joe Walsh vocal delivery.
Yeah.
Uh, and,
Let me mute my mic.
and it's against the piano. Rob must have gas today.
There's a helicopter going by.
Oh, I didn't even hear it.
Okay.
His pain voice is perfect for this song.
Yes.
Legendary background vocals on this, and beautiful guitar put on there gently by Joe. But it's interesting to hear his voice just back with just the piano.
Gently by Joe.
Yes. Yeah, we're just gonna do this with keys, man. Try and Love Again, sung by Glenn. I spaced out and was just listening to the tune. I didn't even write any notes.
That was by Glenn. He sang that because I thought it was Randy Meisner that sang that.
I'll have to check. It's possible. Then there's The Last Resort.
That was Don.
Yeah.
Dan.
Right.
Henley, I should clarify.
Yeah, and this reminded me of the Beatles tune. What do you call it? Once There Was a Way to Get Back. That kind of reminded me of, yeah, kind of reminded me of that. Great ballad, almost country.
Yeah.
So they kind of gave their fans from the previous work a little nudge. Yeah. And they know when to let a song breathe.
Definitely.
So many people are trying to fill every note with the color and every space, and sometimes.
Well, I think they let the album breathe as well because they didn't come
for sure
with the long run until 79 or 80.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the most of Don Henley songs here, I wrote a note that said, seemed to be a melancholy, depressed writing space for Don. Like the songs that he sang were all kind of like,
Well, that's how he writes.
Right. But I mean, great song. I mean, I love Don Henley. That is not a slight, but you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, every song has a different emotion in here, makes you feel different. You react to it. It never gets old. When I write, it was funny because I usually listen to, Eagles Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll just listen to that when I'm writing or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's so relaxing to me. I probably listened to that album 5,000 times. But Hotel California, definitely one of the greats.
Definitely.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. Anything else you have to add, sir? Oh, let's look at those guys, bunch of studs. Back in the day with the handlebar mustaches. There's our man Joe. Slide on a double neck. And we should talk about probably one of the greatest guitar solos ever in Hotel California.
Yeah.
I mean, with the 12-string going and Joe playing up against it. Felder and Walsh.
Yeah.
Those guys really played well, off each other.
Yeah, they're actually doing the solo for Hotel California right there. I can tell by the finger placements.
What's that?
They're actually doing a solo for Hotel California. I can tell by the finger placement.
Right. Nice.
The outro solo. A lot of people don't know that the Eagles actually did the harmony work for Against the Wind from Bob Seger, because Bill Szymczyk, another production by Bill Szymczyk, was Bob Seger.
Well, Glenn was also in Bob Seger's band, and he toured with them when he was like 15 years on, 15 to 18 or something like that. He was on tour with the Silver Bullet Band.
Sweet.
And then also there's a Jackson Browne connection.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Because they all rented a room or an apartment in the same building or something.
Yeah, they wrote a lot of songs together, the country stuff.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Take it easy.
Can you imagine? Oh, what's the first songs you wrote? Oh, Desperado and what? Yeah, Had an hour to burn. Desperado. I know we're getting off the track here, but Desperado is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah,
It's just
definitely.
its own thing. But
And who sang
anyway,
that?
what's that?
And who sang that? Don Henley.
Don Henley. But yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so that's the Eagles Hotel California.
We swore we were going to stick to like 15 minutes per episode. Here we are.
All right, 30 minutes in. But
well, folks, I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah. So that was Hotel California, track by track, doing On the Record. And hey, keep buying those albums. Rob, thank you, brother. We'll see you next time.
My pleasure.
And
thanks for having me.
Everyone, have a great one. And that, remember, once you check in,
you can never check out.
You can never leave.
That's right.
And that's On the Record. We will see you kiddies next time.